Thank you, Daniel, and to Luke, and to you all for the opportunity to open tonight's session and to speak before such an illustrious panel gets going. My goal in the next 10 minutes is to frame the debate and to pose a few provocative questions that personally I would love the panel to address. Firstly, I just want to tackle, I suppose, what we mean by purpose, since just like fake news, it's become a very hot topic and a topic of much debate. As Daniel was saying, there's sometimes different ways of thinking about purpose. When the marketing department talks about purpose, it's usually talking about, it seems to be, my slides kind of nipped slightly off the left-hand side, if that can be cured. It's talking about the role a brand or company plays to enrich the lives of consumers and customers. But when sustainability folks talk about purpose, we're talking about what the brand or company does to make the world a better place. And there's a notion of citizenship that's built into that. Of course, in progressive organizations, like the ones on stage tonight, these become one and the same thing. I think that Paul Polman puts it well when he says the real purpose of business has always been to come up with solutions that are relevant to society and make society better. Your company's purpose is something that you feel passionate about, that the world needs, that you're great at delivering, and critically, that people will pay you for. So, does it pay to be purposeful? And how and why does that happen? Well, over the last couple of years, we've started to recognize that purpose must pay if the corporate sector is going to take it seriously. So we've become a lot more focused on the size of the prize. So here on the screen, we have some big numbers, as Donald Trump would say, very, very big numbers. The Business and Sustainable Development Commission identified 60 market hotspots related to the SDGs when launched, with a value of 12 trillion US by 2030. 19 trillion was the size of the prize for the Paris Accord by 2050, according to the International Renewable Energy Agency. And recently, McKinsey estimated that the circular economy could add 1 trillion US to the global economy by 2025, including 100,000 new jobs within 5 years. So, in theory, there is a very big prize out there to be won. So how is it that purpose can create both business and societal value? Well, firstly, of course, through innovation. And as Peter Diamandis said, the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest markets. And I think that increasingly people in this room will be used to the idea of starting innovation work with the idea of what's the problem that we're trying to solve, which probably wasn't the case 20 years ago. In those days, as marketers, we were thinking about unmet needs and stuff like that rather than solving problems in the world. We heard just a couple of crowds ago from IKEA's Steve Howard on the stage, and IKEA haven't just been responding to steadily growing customer demand for sustainable solutions, they've actually been shaping customer choices through their stores and online. They slashed the price of LED light bulbs from 10 euros to €1.50 each over time, and they've transformed the product performance of those items. And that enabled them to go all in, as Steve would say, on LEDs, convert their whole lighting range, and grow sales along the way. Now, that's truly bold stuff. As Keith will talk about, many of you know that Unilever reported 30% faster growth for its sustainable living brands versus the rest of its business, which equaled half of the firm's total growth in 2015. If you look at GE, their Eco-Imagination program has now been running for 12 years, and over that time has generated a staggering 232 billion in revenues. In many cases, what GE is doing is growing new sustainable marketplaces that didn't used to exist and is establishing itself as a leading player in those markets. For example, they have a new service business called Current, which was grown within the walls of GE. Current makes commercial buildings and industrial facilities more efficient and productive by blending, on the one hand, LED and solar technologies with, on the other hand, networked sensors and software. Of course, a lot of purposeful innovation is led by startups, and breakthrough business models, in John Elkington's language, are often needed to achieve strong positive impact with a route to profit. For example, with BlaBlaCar, by leading the way in car sharing, they now have 35 million members across 22 countries and growing. But services like BlaBlaCar bring up an important question. In an interview recently, Steve Howard suggested that we might have hit peak curtains, by which, at least we think he meant, peak stuff in general. So I think the question for us all who are in product businesses is, how can companies grow revenue and profits without necessarily having to grow, ultimately, levels of consumption? The second way in which we can turn purpose into business value is through long-term differentiation. And the guy you'll see on the Fortune magazine cover, as many of you will recognize, is Yves Chouinard from Patagonia. They started their journey quite a while ago. Back in 1996, they committed to 100% organic products, and they are a true purpose pioneer, making fleece jackets out of plastic bottles, tracking the paper they use to print catalogs. Then they have their worn wear repair and reuse program, basically showing that they can make the same products in a much more conscious way and charge a lot more for them. When it comes to differentiation, brand activism is clearly in. And so many brands are now looking to align themselves with social and environmental causes, and marketing teams everywhere are poring over the brand image trackers to see if it's helping them to differentiate their brands and companies. So for companies like Nike, their cause-related campaigns are just one dimension of a committed purpose agenda, but for others, it's probably just the latest way to drive sales. And you could even say that there's a danger potentially when our activism is mediated by brands. As Will Fowler from Headspace says, if a brand can allow me to carry on living exactly as I was and fuel my social conscience, then they can have all my pocket money. So a question to the panel might be, are brands sometimes guilty of using purpose to sweeten increased consumption and drive sales in a way that doesn't really help the sustainability agenda? Either way, people, especially millennials, want to work for purposeful companies, research tells us. I found this rights-free image of Nestlé employees in their HQ in Switzerland, and I thought, have they got purpose? And what they clearly know is that purpose, according to research, helps to recruit the best, also to retain the best, especially when it comes to younger people. And what's more, the Society of Human Resource Management found the morale is 55% better, apparently, in firms with strong sustainability programs. Lastly, purpose clearly helps with companies wanting to use it as a driver of reducing costs and mitigating risks. In the 15 years from 1994 to 2010, Dow Chemical saved 1,800 trillion BTUs of energy, which is enough energy to power all of California's residential buildings for a year and a half, and they saved $9.5 billion along the way. For Coca-Cola, of course, a huge challenge and future risk is all about water. They have a high water impact, and it's something in terms of their business growth they have to get their head around. But they've now announced that they're the first Fortune 500 company to replenish all the water that they use globally. So in summary, I'm sure we'll agree that purpose does impact everything an organization does, and it definitely does pay. And as Mike Barry says, you don't want to be last to the party. Thank you.